All right, guys, welcome back to week 10 of the Gambling Show. I'm here with Yanni. What's up, dude?
What's going on, dude?
We took a ass kicking last week, so that felt bad. Also,
Revenge of the underdogs.
revenge of the underdogs, and it was the first week in probably a decade that I did not watch the Niners game. I'm so depressed by what's going on this season, and I had extremely relevant fantasy games to me that I didn't watch it. I didn't watch him beat the Giants. Am I a fake fan for that?
No, no, and you didn't miss much. It was a bad game.
At least they won, right? Rams week now. Good luck, Niners. I'm hoping, I'm praying for you. All right, let's get into the week 9 recap. I'll go first. Another 1-4 week for me, off the heels of my first 4-1 week of the season. So we're right back to neutral, which is a dagger. It's funny because I feel like for both of us, the pick that we trashed each other on the most, like we had the most pushback on during the game breakdowns, are the ones that came home. So Falcons plus 5.5, my big underdog of the week. That's the only one that really hit. They lost but covered. It was, you know, I thought that Drake May got a little loose at the ball. He made some mistakes, and the Falcons were competent. Drake London had like the game of his life. He mossed Christian Gonzalez in a couple situations. So the Falcons like made it close. They still lost, but I feel pretty good about that pick. It's for me, it's hard. I'm still learning to like pick underdogs at like a higher clip. So that felt good. That one came home. Chargers minus 9.5 against the Titans in Tennessee. That was a consensus of ours. We both lost that. You know, it didn't feel like Tennessee was particularly close at any point in the game. But when you're laying a big number like 9.5, something like Justin Herbert throwing a pick six in the second quarter, and the offense looking a little weird with Joe Alt going down, the Chargers win by a touchdown but don't cover. That's the risk that you run when you take these big favorites. If they were playing again this week, I would make the same wager. It's just a little unlucky. I don't know. I guess that's bad process. Lions minus 8.5. I'm going to save for Yanni. I want to hear your thoughts on 9. Jaguars minus 2.5. Going forward on this program, whenever I have this weird feeling about the Raiders, I'm going to do it. Because I said it on the head coach episode the previous week. I came out here, I picked the Jaguars minus 2.5 and said it was strictly a numbers play. And the Jaguars still win, but they won by exactly 1 point because the Raiders went for two in overtime and didn't get it. Both teams scored a touchdown, by the way. Let's be honest here. The Jaguars are absolute dumpster trash. We saw what the Raiders are last night against the Broncos. They're not good. But Brock Bowers raises that ceiling of the roster. I think it's time to just be honest with ourselves. The Jacksonville Jaguars aren't particularly good at any section of the football game, right? They don't have a great offense, and now Brian Thomas Jr. is down and Travis Hunter's down. They don't have a very good defense. They kind of thrive off those turnovers, and sometimes you get bit when you give up points with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know. Maybe Yanni has a different opinion on it, but I feel like I had a feeling and I didn't go with it, and it fucked me. But it is what it is. Then Chiefs minus 1.5. I'm shocked by this result. The Bills came out, and I think it was only a one touchdown game, but really they dominated for the majority of the game. You know, I was of the opinion this Chiefs team it was going to be different this time because this is by far the best offense they've had in about 3 or 4 years, right? And when you look at the Buffalo Bills regular season domination of the Chiefs, it's been in the regular season over that period. So I was like, okay, well things have changed. The Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. Let's bet that. I think it's a good number. I don't know, man. I think Josh Allen and Sean McDermott may really just have their number in the regular season. I would still never bet the Bills in the postseason to beat the Chiefs. I will never handicap that until I see it because I think the Chiefs and Mahomes just have this certain level of magic, but it was not on Sunday, man. I think Mahomes, what did he throw for? Like 200 yards and maybe one touchdown? Maybe he didn't even throw a touchdown. I forgot exactly what it was. But Chiefs lose by a touchdown wasn't particularly close. So 1-4 week. I hit the Falcons at least, which was a single bet, so I make some money back. But it ended up being like -2 units again. Season record drops back down to 20 and 25. So officially at the halfway point of the season, I have 5 games to make up, and I have about 5 units to make up. Totally doable. Just have to make correct and good picks going forward.
Yeah, Ted covered the Chargers. For the Lions, what happened there? I think Brian Flores coached the game of his life, right? So that's a pretty big thing. For some reason, the Lions went from like 65, 70% usage on Gibbs back to like 50%, which is pretty weird. He was coming off one of the best games of his career. I think getting him going really matters, but also I think like the Vikings schemed their way into a really good game plan. I thought JJ McCarthy looked pretty good. Um, Dude, I always tell you this, like, and I'm not saying it about you, I'm saying it about social media. People that call the players by their names is the most bizarre. Dude, like, I've been around football my whole life, like from 10 years old, and then I coached after high school for a few, like 15 years. I was either coaching or playing football, and I've never once yelled the guy's number at him. We called people by their last name. I don't know why people do that. And then also, like, JJ McCarthy's cringe and weird. I don't think the stupid. I go to a different place and I have this monster in me I bring out in the game. That's horrible. I'm so bummed out that I will now have to defend this guy who's kind of a douchebag, but he played a great game. I thought against the Lions at home for the Lions. The trend lines were extremely strong about what we were expecting to see out of Dan Campbell and those guys in their house, what they've typically done. I just think the Vikings really came through, and like we've called this spot out a few times this year. Division opponents, big underdogs, whole seasons on the line. You tend to get the absolute best punch that the opponent has, like when the Dolphins covered against the Bills earlier this season. I just think that's like a thing that happens is and maybe it's something we need to be more aware of. And like I think this week Ted is going in on one of those when which will be coming up here. And then the Colts -3. I got Tomlin. I got Tomlin in the raw Tomlin spot. I'm fascinated with this new development that we saw this week. Apparently, like I wasn't even aware of this, like 65, 70% of Daniel Jones completions were going to his first read on a given play. Well, the Steelers went in, they erased his first read, and we saw Daniel Jones looking pretty terrible for most of the game. Pretty curious to see how he bounces back from that this week. It seems like the Steelers went in there with a perfect game plan. Let their D line tee off a little bit. Let them get to Daniel Jones. Like we saw the Colts get, I won't say exposed, but they did not look like the Colts we've seen this year, and it was a really strong showing for Tomlin and the Steelers. Yeah, just a really good game from them, and I got. And then the Seahawks -3 against the Skins. That one for me was my favorite bet of the week. I wish I had left it as my independent bet, but I actually thought the Jags was safer over the Raiders. And really, if they kick the extra point and the Jags get the ball back, that probably comes home. Me and Ted sort of got snake bit on that. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about the Hawks. Like that was a pretty cut and dry. I don't know, man. I know Terry McLaurin, and then Jaden gets injured, but Jaden played the whole game. They just did not give Jaden the weapons he needs to stay competitive with top teams in the league. So I'm down to 0.25, $25 over 500 after losing all 3 of my units this week, and I'm exactly 500, 22, 22, and 1 on the year.
You are a delicious Domino's delivery meal in the green, but it is still in the green.
Yeah, it is in the green. It is in the green.
All right, week 10 picks. I'll go first. So this is only the second time in this show's history I do not have a parlay this week. I'm doing all straight bets, and I'll explain why in a second here. First one is I have the Giants and Bears over 46.5 points. So going with 1 point total this week, but I think I'm willing to bet on terrible defenses and I think promising offenses at a minimum. Then we also have our first head-to-head of the year. I am taking the Patriots money line, and Yanni's on the Bucks -2.5. So adding even more juice to what should be a great game. I'm taking the Cardinals +6.5 going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. I'd imagine this will be a fade the public pick, but we'll see when we get there because I haven't looked at those numbers yet. We have 2 consensus picks on the week. We're both taking the Lions -8.5. They are playing the completely depleted Redskins. I figured I am super willing to ride with Dan Campbell in that spot. And then we're both taking the Eagles. I'm taking them on the money line, and Yanni has them at +1.5. So all it is 5 single bets. if they all hit, $999.11, 911. 500 dollars total ticket cost. Profit and loss, like I said, we're still close to 5 units in the red. So 5-0 week gets me like pretty much to exactly where Yanni is. So get I'm looking to get to my 500 record in Domino's delivery meal.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm trying something a little different this week. We'll maybe discuss it going forward, how we handle it, because we hadn't discussed it before. Maybe I did kind of a chump move, right? I'm taking two bigger favorites, but I'm going to parlay them. So I'm taking the Bears on the money line at minus 220, parlaying it with the Panthers on the money line at minus 250. That's going to be my parlay one. My parlay two is going to be the Bucks minus 2.5, going head to head with Ted and the visiting Patriots, and then the Lions minus 8.5 on the road. And that's going to be parlayed with my Bucks pick. And then for the Eagles, yeah, and again, we'll get into it when we get to the slide. I just, with these two head coaches and the likelihood that one of them goes for two at some point in the game, I actually did want the point of insurance. So I'm taking the plus 1.5, even though it probably won't matter. Total parlay return 574.32. Other return 190.91. That's just the Eagles game. Total cost $300. Trying to chase 765 back. It would be awesome to have another 5-0 week. Although if it happens with taking big favorites, we may start a weird trend with the channel, but we'll see. We'll go with it. We'll go with it if it starts working out.
I'm also shocked to see that you have no totals, and I have a total. Because you've been sniping the totals all year. I've really stayed away from them, so
So
interesting how we got there.
I had a total at my sixth pick. The only total that I really liked this week was over 44.5 on the Chargers and Steelers. I thought 44.5 for the Chargers and Steelers was a little too low. So that was actually would have been my sixth pick.
All right. So we got the Giants going to Soldier Field to play the Bears. Yanni's taking the money line. I'm taking the over at 46.5 points. The betting breakdowns are this: the Bears are getting 81% of total bets on the money line and 78% of the total dollars on the money line. That checks out to me, right? I feel like you'd have to be a psycho putting a ticket on the Giants on the money line when they're 4.5 point dogs, right? It's a key number. You just get that if you bet them as an underdog. But maybe some people are seeing something that I don't. Then for the bets, for the totals, 41% of total bets are on the over, and only 43% of total dollars are on the over. So the public is thinking this one goes under for the most part, which is interesting. I feel like these are two terrible defenses, but I know there is some weather. There's some weather like in the news, so I think that might have scared people into an under, but I still think it's an over spot here. Season records on the over under. The Giants have hit 5 overs and 4 unders. The Bears have hit 5 overs and 3 unders. Then yards gained and yards allowed. The Giants are 18th in offensive yards gained and 29th in defensive yards allowed. And the Bears, a top five offense apparently, third in offensive yards gained and 26th in defensive yards allowed. And for me, this one's very simple, right? I'll just speak to the reason I landed on this total. I think these are two of the bottom five defenses in the league. The Giants right now are giving up the most yards per rush of any team in the NFL, even more than the Bengals. I think they're like at 5.8 or 5.9 yards per rush allowed. Kind of shocking with what their defensive line like is constituted of, but that's just where we're at, right? So okay, even if this game is going to be cold, even if there is a little bit of snow, it's potentially a snow game. I was looking on the Apple like weather app or whatever, right? It says it should be clear all the way from about 12 o'clock in Chicago to 8 o'clock in Chicago. So this game is going to happen while there's not snow, but there could be snow on the sidelines, right? Temperatures are going to be low 30s, so it feels like a team that does not tackle well and does not defend the run well in the cold may have trouble stopping either Kyle Monangai or DeAndre Swift, whoever is out there, right? The Bears have been blocking really well. Caleb, he's been okay. Like he's what he has done is he's been able to like really pop off on subpar defenses. I think this Giants team qualifies as a subpar defense. I'd imagine Roma Dunze has a good game here. I'd imagine DJ Moore pops off a little bit here. Colston Loveland, we'll see if his involvement remains. And then on the other side, right, Jackson Dart, he just continues to impress me, man. Like he is working with nothing there. He's throwing to guys like Wandale Robinson and Darius Slayton, and he's still putting up numbers and staying at least somewhat competitive in games, right? The Giants game wasn't really close against the Niners, but at least they scored points. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, what do I need? Like 23 points from each team. And I think they're both bottom five defenses. I just think it's too low. And given the fact that it's not going to be raining or snowing during the game, I thought this was kind of a sneaky play here. So that's why I landed on the over. I mean, Yanni, do you have like a whole lot to say why you think the Bears beat the Giants in this one? It feels like a pretty safe bet to me.
No, that's really all. Again, we'll probably discuss it next week about taking big. This is the first time that one of us has taken like a favorite on the money line. Typically, it's only underdogs. I probably should have talked with Ted before doing it, but I went for it. No, and so the only thing is though, I wasn't comfortable taking the spread just because I feel like the Bears have a weird like wide range of outcomes, and then the Giants like tend to be in it till the last drive or two, or at least they keep trying. So like, would I be surprised if they're down by 10 and they get a last minute touchdown on like a dart scramble or a Slayton bomb or something? No, I wouldn't. Um, so that's the only reason I actually wasn't comfortable taking the spread here. I do think the Bears probably cover the 4.5 as well. Okay, my second one, Panthers at minus 250 against the Saints. I believe this was also, I think it was a 5.5 point spread, which felt a little too aggressive for the Panthers. But this is hilarious. 7% of money line bets have gone on the Saints, 4% of the dollars bet, 93% of bets, and 63% of dollars have gone on the Panthers. The Panthers have a 6-3 record. The Saints are 1-9, 1-8. And then the Saints in offensive yards are now 29th. In defensive rank, they're like, okay, they're 19th. The Panthers are 22nd in offensive rank. They're 13th in defensive rank. To me, it's really just I think the Panthers are going to run the ball all day, all night on the Saints. I don't think the Saints will be able to stop them. I know it looks like Tetaroa is probably going to miss this week with the Friday hamstring injury. It's his third one of the season, unfortunately. I would be surprised if they roll him out there, but I don't really think it matters here. It's just a bet on their rushing attack. Um, and to me, it's like the Saints are approaching put a fork in them territory. Like I think they're ready to get on with their summer, right, or their off season. They're ready to be done with football. Not that I mean the players actually look like they're playing hard, but I just mean organizationally. They have a bye next week too. Alvin Kamara hasn't been totally healthy. I just don't see what the Saints are going to do against the Panthers here. So this was a pretty easy one for me. Like I said, I'm parlaying it with the Bears. I figured if I'm going to take two bigger favorites to make it worthwhile, I'm going to parlay them. So you're getting like plus 105 with the two games combined.
Let me ask you this: if Spencer Rattler was playing instead of Tyler Shuck, would you be still be interested in this Panthers money line bet?
Yeah, dude. It's to me, it's just their running game. Like I think they're going to control the ball. They're going to pound the rock all day, and like also like I think their defense is pretty good. Not like really good, not elite, not top 12. I just think it's like a pretty good NFL defense. And to me, a pretty good NFL defense against the Saints is a big problem. You know what I mean? Like the Panthers defense, they took it to the Packers in a pretty big way. They played a pretty good game against the Packers and Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and Christian Watson and Golden and Tucker Kraft, who got injured in that game, but he was in the game. Like to me, it's a lot about just their running attack and their defense. It really doesn't have much to do with the Saints. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that, right? It's obviously when you're playing bets like this, like it, you're betting against what you perceive to be a terrible team, right? Because I don't think, would you call the Panthers like a good team?
no,
Would you call
no,
them
I
like a
wouldn't
middle of the road team?
like if you want to say like a ceiling of being the 18th or 19th best team is middle of the road, sure, but I'd call that bottom third.
Okay,
They're like to me, they're like the upper crust of the bottom third.
yeah. So like I'm kind of there too. I think they're a bottom third team, and you're taking a money line. So it's like if a team is not an outlier terrible team, I feel like it's kind of a risky bet. But I feel like because the Saints sat Spencer Rattler, right? I feel like they are now an outlier terrible team. At least like remember that run where Spencer Rattler was playing okay and like
Yeah,
like there were a lot of moral victories. It feels like those are gone now, right? They're traded
yeah,
Rashid Shaheed out of town. I just, without Tet, it's tough, but I think this is a pretty safe bet on the
dude.
Saints here.
I just think what they've done all year, what they've shown a willingness to do, because it hides their bad O line, which is weird. Their O line's decimated, but they can run the ball. I don't know if maybe it is Rico Dowdle. I'd have to like look at his individual metrics or whatever. Something's going on where like their passing game seems pretty impacted, but their running game's rolling. I think they're gonna run the ball like 35, 40 times here. Like to me, that's just what it is. And then, I don't know about old Shucky boy. I don't know if old Shuck is an
Not an
NFL.
NFL quarterback. I'm going to say that immediately. Dude,
No, no,
I'm playing a team this week in our fantasy league that's starting the Panthers DST and Rico Dowdle, and I'm terrified of this game. So if the
that's
Saints
a
wanted to put up a fight, I'd appreciate it.
dude. I'll be totally like that's actually like a potentially lethal stat this week. That's like where Rico gets 2 touchdowns and then they start passing to catch on and you get a pick six. Like
Dude, this Rico Dowdle business has just been a fantasy destroying force for me this year. It's one of my biggest L's of the year for sure. Oh, okay, it's the head to head. I'll open it up and I guess we'll just argue about it. I'm taking the Patriots money line here. They're 2.5 point dogs. Yanni is taking the Bucks against the spread at -2.5. Here are here's the breakdown of the bets. Right now, the Patriots are getting 60% of the bets against the spread and 53 of total dollars against the spread. So it's the public pick, but the whales don't prefer it. And then on the money line, the Patriots are getting 40% of total bets and 38% of the dollars on the money line. That's a little more shocking to me that there's like big money coming in on the Bucks like money line when you could just take a pretty good number at -2.5. But I guess that's a decision that people have made. Offensive defensive breakdowns. The Patriots are 12th in offensive yards gained and 9th in defensive yards allowed, and the Bucks are 17th in offensive yards gained and 16th in defensive yards allowed. Season records against the spread: the Patriots are 6-3 again, and the Bucks are 5-3. So I guess let's talk about it, man. Did the Patriots' performance last week against the Falcons scare you into the Buccaneers here, or what? What's going on?
no, it didn't. So primarily this is a bet on Todd Bowles for me. Todd Bowles calls a really nice game against mobile quarterbacks, dude. That is like when you talk about like an old salty dog who's just been in the game for decades, who's seen everything, who's done everything, who really like comes out with a great game plan. Obviously, you were watching the game. Those disguised coverages he did, the what looked like the drop cover two, and then picked off Mac Jones twice when they played the 49ers. That was like such a good specific disguise coverage to counter Mac Jones reads and what the 49ers want to do. And he seems to do something similar with mobile quarterbacks. And Drake May has been reliant on like his out of structure plays this year. So they have a pretty good D line who should be able to pressure Drake. Drake has been a little bit turnover prone when he's like getting going. He's still a young quarterback. He still hasn't started 2 full seasons yet. And then Kayshon Boutte, I think actually really matters. He was the wide receiver 3 in fantasy the last month before he got hurt. He is like their field stretching X receiver. Now they're going to put Kyle Williams in there, and Kyle Williams I actually loved as a prospect. I'm kind of excited to see what he does. But like I think there's a little bit of a tall order here going on. You can't really run on the Bucks necessarily, or if you're not Jahmyr Gibbs, you can't. And Trevion Henderson should be really good out of the backfield receiving. So like I think it's going to be an offense. I'm not expecting him to get blanked. I just think Tampa has a really strong both schematic advantage and X's and like in Jimmy's and Joe's and X's and O's advantage. And then I'm kind of betting on we see some Drake May turnovers here. They're coming out of a bye too, so you get Todd Bowles the whole bye to plan for Drake May. It just seems like too like the Patriots are a little beat up and they're coming off some really big spots where they've won. Seems like they could kind of use their bye too. Like they're like a younger team. So I think in some ways it's a sell high on the Patriots. In other ways, it's just betting on a veteran coaching staff and a bunch of Super Bowl champions over there in Tampa Bay coming off a bye week, doing what they should do. So
Yeah, I guess probably the reason we came to a different, the other sides of this bet is just the way I view Drake May in this spot, right? Because when I look at the Bucks, I definitely think they have a pretty good rush defense, right? But to me, it feels like the Patriots aren't really that interesting in establishing the run. Jarek May still has over 70% of his entire team's yards, right? So it's like exclusively a bet for me on Drake May against like a Buccaneers secondary that's just gotten torched all year. Sam Darnold torched them. The Bucks have done good against lesser opponents, right? Like the crippled 49ers or the Saints, they've taken care of business there. But I think this is actually going to be a real test for them. So I feel like the Patriots will be able to score here, and I'm fading the Bucks offense a little bit, man. Without Bucky out there, I was almost expecting Bucky to be back this week. I was actually very much expecting Bucky to be back this week. My fantasy teams are not happy about that, but we haven't really seen like that high level of Buccaneers offense. With Mike Evans and Bucky and Chris Godwin out, right? It's really Igbuka, and then you got a bunch of like fodder really in there, right? Like Kate Otten, like he's nice when he shows up, but he's kind of fodder. Tez Johnson, a little bit of fodder, right? So I was like, I just don't. Baker would have to play, I think, significantly better than he did the past month if the Bucks want to win this game. So I don't know. It just felt to me like maybe people got scared a little bit about what they saw with the Patriots last week, and that let them off the game. The good news here is the game's going to be in Tampa. It's going to be nice weather, so should be some nice back and forth. I don't know. I'm excited for our first head-to-head, though. I think you got me last year, and I got you 2 years ago. You're definitely having a better gambling year than me. So, but if I could have one minor victory, I would appreciate it.
Hey, we'll see what happens. Yeah, so I think though that last point you made is really important. You're getting a really good. Somehow you are able to buy low on a team that's 6-3 against the spread. Like the Patriots were minus 5.5 last week. They're minus 2.5 or plus 2.5 this week. So they swung the line 7 points. Now part of that obviously is the opponent they're going against, but are the Falcons and Bucks that different? Are they 7 points different for the Patriots? So probably that is correct in saying Vegas over adjusted, but at minus 2.5, like to me, that's just a field goal. Like that doesn't, like that might as well be 0.5 to me. It doesn't really matter. I'm betting on them to win by a field goal. So
Yeah, it obviously should go without saying. That's why I took the money line here. I don't think there's a ton of value in 1 or 2 point underdogs. I know there are some people that say that two is a key number. I'm
no,
not really of that mindset. No, I swear,
no,
like a
I'm
lot
the
of
same.
professionals think that's like a key number. Like not to me though. So I'm like, I'll just try and squeeze as much juice as I can out of this. But yeah, I'm excited. One of us will be talking shit next week. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, this one's me. I'm taking a massive underdog here. The Arizona Cardinals and Jacoby Brissett. I'm taking them to cover the spread, going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. I'm not shocked at all that this is a fade the public pick. Only 32% of total bets against the spread are on the Cardinals here, and they're only getting 25% of the dollars. So a slight little baby whale lean is going into Seattle minus the 6.5. Season records against the spread. The Cardinals are 5-3. Big note here: they are 5-3 against the spread on the year, and the Seahawks are 6-2. Their only teams they did not cover against were the Niners and the
49.
Bucks. Yeah. Offensive and defensive yards gained. Cardinals are 21st in offensive yards gained, 20th in defensive yards allowed. So middle to bottom third in both categories. And the Seahawks approaching top 10 in both categories. They are ninth in offensive yards gained and 11th in defensive yards allowed. So, you know, it, as it turns out, it's not a big whale pick. It's a fade the public pick. I don't think the Cardinals win this game. Uh, but I feel like with Kyler Murray being out, they just put him on IR, so he's going to miss the next 4 weeks minimum. But that felt like a soft benching to me. It feels like Arizona's really liked what they've seen out of Jacoby Brissett the past 3 weeks. I think he's like, let me pull up his numbers so I have it exactly, but it's honestly pretty good.
He's covered both the games he started.
Yeah, so he started 3 games. He's covered all three. He covered against the
Covered.
Colts, the Packers, and the Cowboys. Like it's not a cupcake schedule, right? And in all 3 games, he's passed for a minimum of 260 yards and had multiple touchdowns in every game. So it feels like the Cardinals have found something that works at a bare minimum. right? So Trey McBride is getting in the end zone. Marvin Harrison Jr. just had the most catches of his career. Obviously, this is a tough task going against the Seattle Seahawks in Sam Darnold, but I also kind of liked what I saw on Monday night with what the Cardinals defense is able to do against the Cowboys. Right? I think that if we're being super charitable, I would call Sam Darnold like a less fancy version of Dak Prescott. Right? So is it worth a touchdown more against a team that's playing in division, who, by the way, has been worse at home? Last year, the Seahawks went 3-6 at home with Mike McDonald, and this year, both of their losses came at home. The 12s just clearly aren't a very good fan base. They aren't making a difference in there. They're not as loud as they think they are. But it just feels like too many points to me. I would not be shocked to see Sam Darnold throw at least one or two interceptions here. He's been doing that. Obviously, he's also throwing for 1,000,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. It looks really good, right? But I think there's a couple turnovers here. I think the Cardinals, who, by the way, have not lost a game by more than 7 all year. I think like 5 of their losses had like a total margin of like, what was it, like 10 points or something, right? The Cardinals constantly are dropping 3-point losses, 1-point loss to the Titans, right? It feels like they're in every game and they're getting better at a minimum. And I feel like the Seahawks have kind of been consistent all year where they're a pretty good team, but I don't think they're an elite team, right? Like the teams that I think could beat the Cardinals by 7 points in the NFC are like maybe the Lions, maybe the Eagles, end of list. Really, maybe the Bucks could do it if Baker has a good game, but it just feels like
The
a massive overcorrection, little historical outlier in division. One team's arrow, even though it's kind of gross, is pointing up, right? So I feel like I had to go with the value here. Cardinals plus 6.5. What do you think, man?
I think the Rams could cover 6.5
Oh yeah,
also.
the Rams probably too.
Yeah, so I actually think you found really strong trends. I love the argument you made for it. It's really sound. Like if I was to forced to take a side here, I probably would take the 6.5 because of what you said. Like that's all great. But this is one of those ones where like the strong trends and the context around the pick, I can't get out of my head how I see the game playing out on the field. The Cardinals are vulnerable to the outside zone run this year. We just saw like Javonte go for 81 or 85 on him. Even though he didn't have a great game, he was able to find room. I'm wondering if we see like a Kenneth Walker spot here. Um, and then also like I love the Shaheed addition to this team. I love the Shaheed addition to this team, dude. What he was Kubiak's was his OC in on the Saints for like 5 or 6 weeks. He was injured most of that year. He dominated in games with him. Like they went and got what I think is their guy who specializes in the deep ball from Sam Darnold. It's going to allow JSN to sit there and work the intermediate and short range of the field and work out of the slot. It's going to force defenses to stay honest with cover two, which JSN has like I think it's over 5 yards per route run against cover two zone. So I take very seriously the changes that have already occurred to an offense that was already rolling. Like to me, the Shaheed thing is not just some random like deadline addition. That like, and then Horton too looked pretty good. I don't think Cooper Kupp is back this week. I don't
Torrey
remember.
Horton is doubtful too.
Okay. Okay. But still, like to me, I take very seriously that Shaheed edition. Like I really do. I think that's a really fascinating dynamic they're gonna have there. So I just would stay away from it in the sense that I don't want to go in with what I consider a pretty big unknown, which is what do they look like now? Adding a burner on the outside who the OC produced some really, really good games with over. I think it was 5 games they played together. But I love all the trends you said. If I had to bet, I would bet with you. It's a stay away from me, but best of luck, my friend. You're taking a big divisional road dog. Those tend to be sharp picks to make, and you'll be very sharp here if you hit a 32-25.
Do
That is
you
a
think
very
that Rashid Shaheed gets full run in this game? Because like obviously he just got traded, right? Like we've had the reports that Jacoby Myers is not going to get full run on Sunday,
yeah.
because he just doesn't have the playbook down. Like, is there is that like an outlier situation? Because I honestly don't know if he will or not. Maybe Horton being down and Cup probably being out forces him in. I just wonder.
Well, so that's an outside versus inside thing, right? Because the inside, you need to know the timing with your quarterback, what your quarterback's going to do when you see certain coverage so he doesn't throw picks. Like if you don't have communication on that, you're going to throw picks. The outside guys, it's a little bit different because it's basically just running your route tree. Obviously, like play action and stuff, like I would guess he's not going to get full run for those things. But also, he's been in Kubiak's system for a year. He was already in there 2 years ago for a whole season and had his best per game season of his career. That was like what led people to think he was going to break out this year was what he did with Kubiak like a couple years ago. And I think he might have been with him for a year before that too. No, I think it was just 1 year. But so like he's been in the system before. I don't really know. You're just guessing, right? I mean, that's just my thing. So I would guess he plays like 65% of what his load would be regularly, 70% maybe. I wish they weren't our rivals like in our in a division or whatever, because I'm actually just excited from a football standpoint. Like I think that offense might be pretty fun, but you can't really enjoy it when you're a 49ers fan.
Dude, it's very interesting, man. Like, cause the noise around Seattle is starting to get really loud. Like, they're like a Super Bowl contender. They're like one of the powers of the NFC. I'm not there yet, and maybe it is because my hate of the franchise as a whole clouds my judgment. I will
Cool.
never forget when Richard Sherman called Crabtree mediocre after the NFC Championship, and they threw popcorn on Navarro Bowman, and he tore his ACL. I've never seen a more trash-filled fan base. They're obnoxious. We've
Yeah.
had ownership over them for like the last ever since Gino took over, really, which has been like just my favorite thing. I always go to the Seahawks Niners games and always just
Yeah.
like get aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's a good rivalry. Like I'm just saying, I wish I could enjoy the strictly on field thing more because on field, like if they, I mean, I know we disagree on it. If they turned it over to Kenneth Walker and said like, here's 20 touches a game, we're rolling with you, like I think that whole unit, like the offense as a whole, their O line has been top 5 in a lot of efficiency metrics. Like I'm curious. I'm very curious what direction that goes. But we also know with Sam Darnold, the bottom tends to fall out of the boat at some point in the year. So. Okay. We are writing consensus. Dan Campbell is, I want to say, it's around 65% coming off a loss and covering the spread the next week. He has like a ridiculous, I think it's like 66.7% covering the spread rate after they get blown out, though, or after they don't cover the spread the week before. So Lions -8.5 going to the Skins with Marcus Mariota. No Terry McLaurin, and the Redskins just named Christopher Rodriguez as a team captain for the week. So that is where we're at. Debo's sinking like a rock. Zach Ertz runs like he's got cement in his pants. That is what is going to try to compete with Dan Campbell and the Lions. The betting public and the money seems to agree. 87% of total dollars bet against the spread are going on the Lions. 83% of all the dollars bet, 87% of total bets against the spread. So 87, 83, a little bit of big money, like not even just a little bit of bigger money coming in on the Skins, but I don't know what that's worth. That might just be their owner. What's his name? Josh Harris. That might just be Josh Harris betting. He might have swung the line himself. Season record against the spread for the Lions, they are 5-3. Season record against the spread for the Skins, they are 3-6. Offensive rank for the Lions, 11th. And then this one's really impressive to me. The defensive rank is 8th this year. Offensive rank for the Skins is 16th. Defensive rank is 28th. Just a quick little story about the Lions defensive coordinator. This is what made me view, I will never again describe Dan Campbell as the CEO head coach who you should keep coordinators over, even though I said I would have done that with Ben Johnson. I forget I think his name's Will Shepard, the Lions defensive coordinator. This was a guy that Dan Campbell has had a relationship with, both playing and coaching, for 20 years, 15, 20 years, something like that, from his days as a player. He identified Will Shepard over like a decade or two ago as someone who has the acumen to be a head coach, as someone who like he thought had a mind for football that was a good enough coach. He went and picked him out and groomed him and got him through his coaching tree and got him a defensive coordinator job. And now he looks to me like one of the better defensive coordinators in football. It's hard to say because I would have said that about Aaron Glenn too. Maybe it's just that the Lions run the ball and play so physical on offense and get up a lot and it's easier for the DCs to work, but I don't think so. To me, he's looked like a really sound, like defensive-minded defensive schemer. That is a massive talent a massive credit to Dan Campbell doing that. That is way beyond. That's not like just sitting there and I don't even say captaining the ship. It's like a lot of these CEO head coaches are sort of passengers on the ship, and you have your offensive coordinator captaining and your defensive coordinator running things underneath, and they just sort of stand there on the hall with the periscope looking out in the distance. That's not what Dan Campbell's doing. I think this whole year has been really impressive for him, and I've been happy to bet on him. We've lost a couple bets betting against him. I've won 2 or 3 in his favor. They didn't cover last week. That did bite us in the butt. Um, but all things considered, like 8.5, dude. Like this probably should have been in my mind 10.5, maybe 11.5, and that's where I would have started thinking about not taking it. If we have to take them to win by 10 points, and like by the way, they need these wins now. They just dropped a game in division. There's a race for who gets to host games at home. They have massive home splits. These games are hugely important to the Lions. These aren't like coasting to the playoff games, and Dan Campbell doesn't coast to the playoffs anyway. Yeah, to me, this was just an easy, like this was the first one when I went through the slate. I penciled that one in right away. I was like, I'm taking this. I'll let Ted say why he's taking it, but I do not think Marcus Mariota, the ghost of Debo Samuel, and Christopher Rodriguez gets it done here.
Yeah, I mean that's really it, right? I am willing to fade the Redskins into oblivion and bet on a team that is known to blow bad teams out, right? That's really all it is. I feel like I'm a little worried about the Lions, man. I think this year they're like 24th or 25th in EPA on offense or something crazy. We've seen like some regression on the
Yep.
offensive side of the ball, specifically in the deep ball. They've had trouble connecting on those. I feel like this is a good get right spot though. We just saw Sam Darnold destroy the Redskins secondary down the field. Elijah Arroyo had a big catch. Torrey Horton had the two. It feels like this is a big Jared Goff spot. I know it's outdoors, so technically it's not like a great historical spot for him, but this one feels like some practice, right? I feel like it's going to be like the practice squad, and the Lions are going to run up the score, get Jamison Williams involved because he's had like a bad season, right? This one feels like a laugher. We might see Dan Skipper out wide. I don't know what the player prop is for Dan Skipper to catch a pass, but that might be an interesting one if you want to get crazy on this because I don't see this being competitive with Marcus Mariota and everyone injured on the Skins. Really don't. And I feel bad for him too. Like such a fun story last year with Jaden, and his season has just been completely derailed by these injuries and another wide receiver holdout, just tanking a season. I feel bad for Debo too. Twice in a row, he's had his fellow wide receiver tank a season from holding out. All right, last one of the week. This is Monday night. We're both on consensus on this. We're taking slightly different wagers, though. I'm taking the Eagles money line. Yanni's taking the Eagles plus the 1.5. Going into Green Bay to play the Packers. Listen, boys, it's been a weird season for both of these teams, for sure. But I feel like this could still be an NFC Championship preview, depending on how things shake up. I don't know exactly how the playoffs are going to go, right? But I can almost guarantee you both of these teams are going to be in the mix for sure. So, little preview maybe. Here's the breakdowns on the betting. 83% of total bets against the spread are on the Eagles, and they're getting 93% of the total dollars. So this is a public dog. A lot of times it is scary to bet public dogs because they have a hard time covering. But I'm willing to ride with Nick Sirianni. I'm willing to do it. Then for the money line bets, 79% of total bets are on the Eagles money line here, and 83% of the dollars are on the Eagles money line. Again, like I feel like I don't know. If you like the Eagles side, I think there's more value in just taking the money line in this situation, but there's less people that are there's more people that are buying that point of insurance, I guess, which that's fine too. Really you're just picking the side for the most part in this game. Season record against the spread, Philly is 5-3, and the Packers are 3-5. The Packers, like, they're not a 3-5 team, but they've been having monster spreads all year that they're just not really covering. The Eagles' offensive and defensive ranks. Philly is 24th in offensive yards gained and 23rd in defensive yards allowed. And the Packers, top 10 in both categories. You'd think they're an elite team. 8th in offensive yards gained and 5th in defensive yards allowed. So, I mean, for me, it's very simple, right? I think that the product that the Packers have been putting on the field is simply not good enough. I think Jordan Love has not been good enough the majority of the year. His big games are against really trash secondaries like Pittsburgh that try and man up on guys, right? This Philly team. Like they have a significantly better defense. I know they're 23rd in defensive yards allowed, but I feel like they're play well above that ranking. Their real issue is their or their second corner slot, whether it's a Dory Jackson or that Mingo fella, right? But Quinion Mitchell should be playing in this game. Cooper DeJean should be playing in this game. Jalen Carter should be playing in this game. The Eagles are coming off of a bye. So that unit is about as healthy as it can be. AJ Brown, I think he got in, he was practicing all week. It looks like he'll probably go.
Went
Jalen
full.
Hurt, he went full today?
Full.
Okay.
Yeah, they took him with the injury report.
Okay, so Jalen Hurts is going. Devontae Smith's been on a heater. Jalen Hurts is playing really well. We finally had our first big Saquon game, so it's been gross. It's been like a process with the Eagles all year. Like people have been willing to, write them off, say they're not gonna do it. There was the coordinator talk. Like everyone was freaking out about Philly, but we're once again in the same scenario where this team is like aggressively winning games. Looks pretty good. Looks like they're a shoe in for the playoffs, and you know I'm just not in on this iteration of the Packers team, right? Like, if Philly scores and they can get up in this game, it's going to force the Packers to drop back and pass. What the Packers want to do, their whole identity at this point has been they're a running team with Josh Jacobs. And when they get down, that's where Jordan Love gets loose with the ball and he makes these mistakes, right? We haven't really seen Jordan Love perform well against premium competition lately either, right? Like there was that bad slide at the end of last year where they were dropping a bunch of games. They had an embarrassing performance in the playoffs to the Eagles, I think. Yeah, actually, Philly boat raced them in the wild card round. And then, like what are Jordan Love's big wins this year? Week 1 against the Lions? I guess so. I guess that's his big win on the year, right? But ever since then, we haven't really seen that premium performance against tough competition. They're getting the test this week without Tucker Kraft now is out of the offense. Jaden Reed is out of the offense. So you're asking like, all right, if we get down and Jordan Love has to carry us, it's going to be like a combination of Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson and an injured Matthew Golden. It just feels like I don't know how the Packers ended up getting points in this game, especially given like their recent performances. Like it's baffling to me, which means maybe I'm missing something. Like a lot of times when something is too good to be true, it could be too good to be true, but there was no way I was not playing Philly here. Nick Sirianni might be the best coach of all time. Seems like a slam dunk to me. What do you think, man?
I would guess for the lines, I would guess it's purely a bet on the Packers defense that's been pretty good this year. I mean, they're fifth in total yards, dude. Like they've played good ball against pretty good teams. Even in their losses, like they've played pretty well. I would assume it's just a bet that Jalen Hurts gets got by the defense. Like with the line, the way the line set, I don't agree with that. But if I had to guess, that's what it is. And then I'll go a step further. What I'm specifically betting against here is Jordan Love's ability to work through his progressions and hit his reads. Like, dude, I don't think we're properly accounting for the fact, like, think about the difference in what you're asking someone to do when you have a Jaden Reed in the offense or when you have a Tucker Kraft in the offense, that you get the ball in their hands and they will generate run after catch. They'll generate chunk plays. Like Jaden Reed, remember they would have him do those like cross the whole field routes where he just has to outrun the safety basically, and then Jordan would hit him for like a 48-yard target or whatever. That's very different than like, okay, so here's the zone that they're sitting in. They're not really worried about any man beaters. They're not really worried about whatever. I have to sit there and work through first read, second read, third read, and then work the ball methodically down the field, which they can now force him to do because there's really no one threatening that sort of thing. Christian Watson maybe, but with Quinion Mitchell, he won't be. I don't think Jordan Love has the ability to sit there and process and play like a precise, methodical, make the right decision 15, 20, 30 times a game type of quarterbacking. He doesn't do that's not his bag. Maybe they were hoping that Golden was the breakout guy that did that, but he's looking banged up. He also had like 8 or 9 weeks to take the role and he couldn't take it. So to me, it's like with Kraft out and with Jaden Reed out another week or two, pick him up on your waiver wires. By the way, guys, if he's on your waiver wires, that's like a potential ad that could really matter down the road. But they said at least another week or two till he's out. Like, yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and comfortably take the Super Bowl champion Eagles coming off a bye, who to me seemed like they found an offensive identity, which their offensive identity needs to be they're leading with under center for Jalen Hurts and bombing the ball left and right to Smith and AJ Brown, and then letting Saquon mix in underneath when they get the room for the defense, when the defense finally has to like back up a little bit. To me, it's like, well, okay, we saw it. They're capable of having all those guys go off at once. They did it against the Giants. Like that is how their offense should run this year, in my opinion. Should be 35 dropbacks for Jalen, 30 or 35. And I wonder if they do that again here. If you do, that's how you want to attack the Panthers is through the air. They're the number 1 or 2 rushing defense in yards allowed, 5th in total defense still, which so they're pretty good against the pass too. But they're more gettable against the pass. So yeah, to me, this was a very easy bet, a very comfortable bet. Ted is correct. I don't like laying the big public dog. And then why I took the 1.5. I could see a bunch of different scenarios where the Eagles are down 29-30 and they go for 2 and they don't get it and they lose by 1. They run a tush push. The tush push doesn't get through. They lost by 1, going for the 2-point to win the game. I could see the converse being true with the Packers, going for the 2-point to win the game and they get it and then they win by 1. To me, it's like I actually think with a lot of teams that doesn't matter. With a team that has the propensity to go for it from the 2-yard line to the degree that the Eagles do, I actually really cared about the 1.5, even though I'm getting the worst number. So I did take it in.
I mean, you're still getting like what is it? 110. That's still pretty good odds. That's like it's
Yeah.
not super juiced or anything, but like it's still pretty good. And I just had this like brainchild. Would you agree with this? I feel like there's some Anthony Richardson in Jordan Love where I think when
Well,
you were talking about like him not being able to process his reads, like when I remember watching Anthony Richardson, like he just loved to bomb the ball down the field. He would never take the easy throw, and he would just try and stretch the field. It feels like that's what Jordan Love does. Like he loves throwing that deep ball. Like his explosive plays or whatever. That's like when he's been playing well. That's what he does, right? He throws a really nice deep ball. I don't know. Maybe he's got a little Anthony Richardson in him. Not like from the accuracy perspective, but from the decision making and refusing to take the layup, refusing to take the small profit standpoint.
to to me, it's more like he's like a the rich man's Jameis Winston. That like that's more what I see in him is like uh I don't know what it is because maybe there's again, I don't pretend to be a film guy. I watch film on my fantasy guys to try to figure out who I like. That's the extent of my film. I don't go in and like I don't pay for the NFL thing so you can get the all 22. I probably should. I probably will start doing that next year. But like to me, I've always interpreted it with Love as dude, like in the Shanahan scheme, when you're getting those short passes out, it's like 1-2 ball out of your hands. That's why Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins are the ideal Shanahan quarterback. 1 step, 2 step, ball out of our hand. Diagnose the coverage. If A, then B. If B, then C. And then they go through it and they hit it real quick. That's never how I've interpreted how Jordan Love plays ball. Like it, so like that part of what you're saying, I totally agree with. I think the short stuff is probably maybe because he doesn't have the cognition to work his way down to, or to work his way to the quick stuff quick enough. He holds onto the ball too long and then the play doesn't work. Like we're seeing that happen a lot with Caleb and Ben Johnson, where it's just not like he's holding the ball and then weird shit happens. So, yeah, I don't know. But to me, I don't know if it's realized enough the difference in having those catch and run guys like Kraft and Reed, that covers up a lot of the inefficiencies of an offense. And then Josh Jacobs has pretty clearly been nursing a calf injury all year. They've been working him in like in platooning him with Eric Wilson. I think Eric Wilson with Wilson, the other running back there. Like, I don't think Jacobs has been totally healthy either. So yeah, I don't. To me, I think we have a reckoning coming this week where we see the wheat from the chaff. We see what a real NFC contender looks like versus a divisional contender. I think the Packers are live to make the divisional round, but I don't think they're live to come out of the NFC for the Super Bowl.
So I just looked at it when you talked about Jordan Love's cognition. He got a 17 on the Wonderlic.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
You might be onto something there, dude.
well, it's not. I mean, I don't like, they had that S2 cognition test, but they threw that out after it told them that CJ Stroud would be the worst quarterback in NFL history. They don't use it anymore. There's not a good predictive cognition test for the NFL yet. There's one they're working on, right? Because that's my psychometrics is what I'm doing in school, right? So I'm interested in all that. But yeah, I do. Like, does he look? Does he? I just don't think we see that, and it's weird because he's been pretty efficient this year. But I think a lot of that is throwing to Tucker Kraft had, I believe, was he leading the league in yards after catch at the time of his
Yeah, he
injury? I
was.
believe
Yak leader.
So it's like your quarterback rating and your efficiency goes through the roof when you throw a 7-yard pass that he takes 49 yards down the field, like he was doing multiple times this year, right? Or you turn a 5-yard underneath route into a 15-yard gain. That really affects efficiency. And then also the other thing that he's actually had a really good QBR and yards per throw is when he's targeting Christian Watson down the field. Well, Christian Watson is going to draw Quinyon Mitchell this week. So it's I believe he will, at least. I think he lines up at their X. I think Dobbs lines up across from him. It's like, dude, that's I don't know, man. I don't know. I wonder if we don't see like an ass beating here. I think we're alive to see an actual ass beating, like a for the dude. They just went tooth and nail with the Panthers, like death match, scratching and clawing to lose to the Panthers. So
That was like the most shocking result for me, like probably on the entire year. Like, may in retrospect, like maybe the Raiders beating the Patriots might be up there, but I can't unsee what I saw there, right? Like, it looked bad, man.
I
But
think the Jags beating the Chiefs. The Jags beating the Chiefs, I think, will be the weirdest game of the year when we look back on it.
that was a weird one too. All right, that's going to do it for us. If you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It helps the channel out. Question of the day for the audience. Who is the better head coach, Nick Sirianni or Matt LaFleur? So the reason I asked this is I've been watching, I always have my ears to the ground of like the NFL news. And one like rumor that's going around is Matt LaFleur might be on the hot seat here if the Packers don't make a run, like a serious run. And I thought that was interesting, right? Because like Matt LaFleur has been the wonder child the entire time. He's been in Green Bay, like he's been NFL's gift to coaching. Everyone loves that guy, and Sirianni gets more shit than any coach I could possibly imagine. But it feels like his job is extremely safe, and now we're talking about Matt LaFleur being on the hot seat. It seemed crazy to me. I don't know. I think that's the classic rah rah guy versus your schematic guy. I think there's value to both, but I certainly don't think that Matt LaFleur should be on the hot seat. What do you think, man?
About which is better or about LaFleur on the hot seat?
LaFleur on the hot seat, like, would that be like
That's
just a colossal mistake if they can him?
I don't think that's true. Who
John Middlecoff was talking about that today.
Yeah, but so, do you know what I noticed about Jay? He's been bumming me out lately. He's been getting a little more clickbaity. Like it's a little weird, you know. Like I've actually tweeted at him the other day, like, dude, can you chill out with the fucking, are the Niners moving on from Purdy? Like, he'll send that out as head of his video. I don't know. Yeah, he's been a little weird lately. But yeah, that is a dude. There's no way if you cut Matt LaFleur, do you know how quickly that guy would be employed? Go get him. Go get Matt LaFleur with Jackson Dart and see what happens. Like, no, that's not. It's not
Well, I
happening.
guess the Packers just like got a new president or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
Uh,
he
that's
was
it.
talking about how there might be regime change. That's all I
Yeah.
know. I don't know. It would be crazy to me personally, but
Real quick, did you see the other one, the report about Sirianni from the front office of the Eagles? Is that they've always viewed him, they delegate roles. So like each coach is responsible for something different. Nick Sirianni's job since he's been there has been the social cohesion guy. So they said that his job was to make sure that the teammates were getting along with each other, which, which that was his primary
babysitter.
that was his primary. No, but when you think about the fact that Jalen and AJ Brown hate each other and have flamed each other publicly, or AJ Brown's flamed Jalen publicly, so is Devonta Smith, and that the biggest story out of the Eagles for the last 2 years has been this locker room does not like it, that the offense does not like each other. I thought that was pretty funny that it came out that what ownership views Sirianni as is the social cohesion guy.
Was that a
And yet,
Diana Rossini report?
no, that was actually from Middlecoff from his guys in their front office. So, because he worked for uh, whatever his name is.
Howie.
Yeah, he worked for Howie. Um, yeah, so that was actually from him from Howie or
I don't know,
from
man.
him.
They seem like the most miserable, like prolifically winning team, like in the NFL for sure. Like they'll be 6-2, and they just won't stop reporting about
No,
unease in the
dude,
locker room and how things don't look right. And it's like, man, you guys high
dude, I think
standards there, I guess.
I think a big part of that is just because their fan base gets clicks. Like to me, it's like they look like a really winning organization that for the most part is nailing. So.
Well, did you see Diana Rossini said that like her AJ Brown like trade rumors were like based off of his Instagram story and like her just interpreting that he was not happy there?
So I don't know about her, but the gold standard, the best journalist in the NFL as far as like getting inside, well, not inside, getting information that he reports it only if it's legit is Michael Florio. Mike Florio is the number one dude as far as now. Diana Rossini is really good because she's with the Athletic, but Mike is like an investigative journalist with this stuff. He reported it weeks before Diana did, and he confirmed it on the trade deadline that they were listening to offers for him. So if Mike, just my 2 cents on it, if Mike reported it, I think it was 100% legit. I don't know why, if she actually reported it based off his Instagram stories, that's a crazy thing to do. But Mike said that he had been hearing calls were going around for 2 or 3 weeks before. And I'm inclined to say if he said it, like they were going around.
Yeah, well, that's going to do it for us this week.
We'll
Enough
never know.
journalism. Well,
I
yeah,
know.
we'll never know.
Yeah.
Super Bowl MVP for AJ Brown incoming. But we'll catch you guys next week for the free agent episode.